Hi guys, Taxi the Bearman is back with you today. I wanted to share with you my guide for creating the ultimate character. Now I've seen lots of videos on character creation out there, and I figured it was time for me to add my own, because I typically don't agree with most of them. So I'm going to show you what I think would be the right character to build if you're willing to put in the time to grind out and make a super soldier. So let's change my name here. Let's make it Super Soldier. Alright, there we go. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrap the dexterity. We're going to take that down to 1. Dexterity is by far the easiest skill to raise. All you need to do is not be gaining weight. You just need to keep your nutrition somewhere between 1% and about 50-60%. As long as it's under 100%, you're gaining dexterity. If you overeat and have it above 100%, then you're going to be losing dexterity. So dexterity is super easy to raise. Intelligence can be raised now using the memory modules in the abandoned bunkers. I hesitate to drop that down to 1 though, because we're going to need the intelligence here, and I'll show you why. So we're going to leave that at 3. So I have 2 extra points to burn. I'm going to take those 2 points and put them all into strength. Strength is by far the hardest attribute to raise. It takes the longest. It takes probably about 10 times as long as the dexterity. Actually, a lot more than that. So strength, if you want to try to max out your stats, you want to start with as much strength as humanly possible, which is 5. If I could take this down and put this up to 7, I totally would, but you can't do that. So we're going to go with 3 on Constitution. No, let's fix this too. Yeah. All right. If I weren't making a video, I would change this to concealed mode off so I could take a look at what we're doing, but this is a kids-friendly show, so let's move on to the next step. I really don't care what the guy looks like, so I'm going to move on. All right, now we get to assign our points. Of all of these skills in the strength category, melee and brawling are the hardest ones to raise. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go advanced on melee, and brawling I'm going to take up to medium. Rifles, handguns, archery, they are all very easy to raise organically. So I'm going to leave those at 0. As far as Constitution skills, kind of want to have a nice mix of running and endurance. Some people say go all running. The only problem is you start out with no endurance. You're constantly having to rest because the endurance is very important for replenishing your stamina. The endurance is easier to raise than the running, but again, I wouldn't put the endurance too low and go all running, otherwise you're going to be resting constantly. As far as dexterity skills go, stealth is the way to go, because we only put 1 point into dexterity. The best we can do is halfway through basic, but that's going to do it. All these other skills, with the exception of thievery, are real easy to raise. Thievery's tough, but you can actually do your thievery just by running around and lockpicking lockers or even crowbarring them open. As far as your intelligence skills, there's only 1 in here that's worth taking, and that's medical. That's the reason we left 3 in the intelligence section, so that you could get the advanced medical. This is by far the hardest skill to raise organically. It takes a lot of time. I'm by far from having that maxed out when I created my main character, which I'll show you here in just a few minutes. I started out with advanced, and I'm not too far past advanced on that. All these other ones, I've been able to raise them pretty well with my character. So anyway, that's what I consider to be the best starting build if you're willing to put in the time and grind out your character to make him all you can be. Now what I'll do is I'll show you what my character currently looks like. And keep in mind, this is a character I've had for quite a while, so it's not like I created this guy and just started playing and boom, I have all the stats. So I'm going to show you that one here. So I'll meet you on the other side. Alright folks, I am back on my regular character, and you may be wondering why I'm sitting here crawling back and forth in a bush. Well, let me show you. The reason I'm doing this is because I've loaded up my backpack with some extra weight, as well as my other bags, so that can give me a higher gear weight, carrying a couple of chainsaws on my shoulders. I have a gear weight of 101 out of 72. I could make this higher, but just for the sake of argument, I'm doing this to show you. And I'm raising several skills while I'm doing this. I'm raising my core strength, as well as my core constitution. I'm also getting some endurance points that pile up in there. I'm also working on my stealth. That's ticking up quite nicely. And I'm getting camouflage. The reason I'm getting stealth and camouflage is because I'm crawling back and forth in a bush. Camouflage you can raise just by laying in the bush, but you're going to lose the other ones that I'm building. So this is the best way of doing that. So anyway, as I said, I started out with melee and the rest in brawling. All the rest of these were 0. Constitution, I made a nice mix of running and endurance, and they're both up to advanced now. Dexterity, I wish I had created the character the way that I said, where I put all the points into stealth, but when I made this character over a year ago, I put it into driving and motorcycling, which was not a good idea, because these are a whole lot easier to raise than the stealth is. And for intelligence, the only thing I put points into is medical. I went up to advanced to begin with because I put 3 points into intelligence. I've since raised that by using the memory modules that you find in the abandoned bunkers. But all these other skills were all at 0. So these have all been raised organically. Now keep in mind, this is an old character. It's about a year old. I play quite a bit. As you can see from my lifetime, I have some time in the game. So you're not going to get these on day one. It takes some time grinding it out, but this is going to be your easiest path to becoming the super soldier in Scum. Another thing I'd like to mention is when you're crawling back and forth in the bush like this, you're going to have to watch your nutrients because you're using them pretty quick. The way I like to do this is with a nice mix of the grilled red meat. I like to use the dough meat when I make these, as well as the Uncle Pong's rice. These are the 2 staples that I like to use in my diet. Reason being is because when you have no carbs in your system, you're using protein like crazy. See, I'm using 42 grams per hour. This number is going to go way down real quick. But if I have carbs, it changes. So I'm going to take a bite of rice. Alright, now I have carb intake, and now my protein usage has gone way down. So instead of being over 40, I'm down at about 5.5. So you want to keep an eye on these numbers. The protein and the carbs are the ones you really need to worry about. You also need to worry about your water. So it's always nice to be able to take a sip out of either some water or some soda. And that'll continue to go up. Now as long as this number is below 100, you'll gain dexterity because you'll be losing fat. But because I'm already at 5.0, you won't see any change here. Otherwise this would be green as well, as I was ticking up dexterity. If this number is above 100%, then your dexterity starts to lose because you're gaining fat. Anyhow, that's all I have for this video. If you liked it, please let me know down in the comments below and give me your thoughts on how I could make my character better. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.